Few stories are as cinematic as the fall of a genius. In the 1980s, Diego Maradona was more than a player. He was a living religion in Naples. But in 1991, the myth cracked. A positive test for cocaine shocked the world. The punishment? A 15-month suspension extended worldwide by FIFA. Just when he seemed reborn, the sequel struck, even more dramatic. At the 1994 World Cup, after his thunderous goal against Greece, that wild, electric celebration caught everyone's eye. Days later, the test confirmed it. 5 variants of ephedrine found in his blood. Another ban. Another fall. And the curtain closed on one of football's most extraordinary careers. Calciopoli, Italy's web of corruption. Just when Italian football seemed unstoppable, a scandal exploded that felt scripted for a political thriller. In 2006, Calciopoli tore open the walls of Serie A, exposing secret phone calls, fixed referee appointments, and a network of manipulation that reached the very top. Juventus, Milan, Fiorentina, Lazio, Regina, the biggest names, all caught in the web. Juventus lost 2 league titles, was relegated to Serie B, and began the next season with a 9-point penalty. Executives were banned for life. Legends left the club overnight. For many, Calciopoli wasn't just a scandal. It was a full-blown reset of Italian football's soul. From power to ashes, and then the slow climb back. Zinedine Zidane, the 2006 World Cup final, Berlin, France versus Italy, the perfect stage for a hero's farewell. Zinedine Zidane, playing his last professional match, had already scored once. But in the 108th minute, everything changed. After a brief exchange with Italian defender Marco Materazzi, Zidane turned and struck him square in the chest with his head. The stadium froze. A red card. A walk of shame past the World Cup trophy. The image became instant football mythology, beauty and fury colliding in one motion. Later, Zidane explained it was provoked by insults about his sister. But by then it didn't matter. His career ended not with applause, but with silence and disbelief. A perfect ending, not for a hero, but for a human. Eric Cantona, the Kung Fu Kick, January 25th, 1995. Manchester United versus Crystal Palace, a cold English night that would ignite one of football's most shocking images. After being sent off, Eric Cantona began walking toward the tunnel, but a fan in the stands shouted something, a single line of abuse that changed everything. In a sudden burst, Cantona leapt over the barrier and launched a kung fu-style kick straight at the spectator's chest. The stadium erupted in chaos. The Frenchman was banned for 9 months, fined £20,000, and even sentenced to community service. That flying kick became more than a scandal. It became a legend. Part crime, part art, part madness. And yet, it made Cantona immortal, not just as a player, but as a symbol of rebellion. Luis Suárez, the repeated biting incidents. It sounds unbelievable, but it happened not once, not twice, but 3 times. Luis Suárez, one of football's most gifted strikers, developed a bizarre habit that no rulebook ever predicted. The first bite came in 2010 while playing for Ajax, a sudden chomp on PSV's Otman Bakal. 7-match ban. Then again in 2013, this time at Liverpool, Branislav Ivanovic felt the same sharp surprise. 10-match ban. But the third, the grand stage, the 2014 World Cup. Against Italy, Suárez sank his teeth into Giorgio Chiellini's shoulder, in front of millions. FIFA came down hard, 4 months out of football, 9 international matches, and a massive fine. 3 bites, 3 bans, and one unforgettable legend of madness, half genius, half chaos. Dani Alves, conviction and legacy collapse. For 2 decades, Dani Alves was football's eternal winner, the man with 43 trophies, more than any player in history. But in 2024, that legacy took a devastating turn. It began with an accusation from a woman at a Barcelona nightclub in December 2022. Alves denied everything, calling it consensual. Yet after a 3-day trial, the court's verdict was clear. Guilty of sexual assault. The sentence, 4 years and 6 months in prison, a €150,000 compensation order, and a restraining order. His bail? Over $1 million. The football world watched in disbelief as one of its most decorated icons became a symbol of disgrace. A career that once defined excellence now serves as a warning that fame offers no immunity from justice. However, the court ruled that there was insufficient evidence to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, making him a free man again. Robinho, conviction and enforcement in Brazil. Once a symbol of Brazilian flair, Robinho's name now echoes for a very different reason. In 2017, an Italian court found him and 5 others guilty of gang raping a woman in a Milan nightclub in 2013. For years he denied the charges, claiming the act was consensual. But every appeal failed, all the way up to Italy's Supreme Court in 2022. Because Brazil doesn't extradite its own citizens, Robinho remained free, performing interviews, even playing locally. Then, in March 2024, Brazil's highest court ruled he must serve his 9-year sentence, right at home. Justice, delayed but not denied. It was a dramatic conclusion to a case that dragged on for more than a decade, a reminder that even the brightest careers can end in the darkest headlines. Andrés Escobar, the tragic own goal and murder. The 1994 World Cup. Colombia, golden generation, full of hope, and expected to conquer the world. But one moment changed everything. In the group stage against the United States, defender Andrés Escobar tried to block a cross and deflected the ball into his own net. Colombia lost, was eliminated, and a week later, tragedy struck. Outside a Medellin nightclub, Escobar was shot 6 times. The killer? A bodyguard for a drug trafficker who had lost money betting on Colombia's match. The gentleman of football became a victim of a violent world he never belonged to. His death wasn't just about football, it was a mirror of an entire nation's pain. And it turned one mistake into an immortal symbol of innocence destroyed. Marcos Alonso, the fatal car accident. Not every scandal is born of rage or corruption. Some begin with a single tragic mistake. In 2011, a young Marcos Alonso, then playing for Bolton Wanderers, was driving through Madrid on a rainy night. He was speeding 112 kilometers per hour in wet conditions, and above the legal alcohol limit. The car lost control and crashed into a wall. A 22-year-old passenger lost her life. Alonso was charged with reckless homicide and sentenced to 21 months in prison. Later, the sentence was reduced to a fine and a driving ban. He served his penalty, but the shadow of that night never left him. A tragedy that reminds us the cost of one reckless decision can last forever. John Terry, racism allegations and FA sanctions. October 2011, Loftus Road, London. Chelsea captain John Terry faces Queen's Park Rangers defender Anton Ferdinand. A heated exchange, caught on camera, sparked one of football's biggest national debates. The footage seemed to show Terry using a racial slur. The case went to court, the tabloids exploded, and England's captain found himself at the centre of a storm. In July 2012, a criminal court acquitted him. The judge said intent couldn't be proven, but the Football Association held its own hearing. There, the verdict was different. Guilty. A 4-match ban, a £220,000 fine, and the end of his captaincy for England. A scandal that showed how football's fight with racism was far from over, and how even one sentence can redefine a career. Joey Barton, a career of violence and controversy. Few players embodied chaos like Joey Barton. A talented midfielder, yes, but one constantly at war with himself and everyone around him. In 2004, he stubbed a lit cigar into a teammate's eye during a Christmas party. 3 years later, he punched another teammate in training. Then came the street fight in Liverpool. 74 days in jail. On the pitch, it didn't stop. Red cards, brutal tackles, arguments, meltdowns. In 2012, during a match against Manchester City, he elbowed Carlos Tevez, kicked Sergio Aguero, and tried to headbutt Vincent Kompany, all in one meltdown. The result? A 12-match ban and a fine worth 6 weeks of wages. Joey Barton wasn't just a footballer. He was a one-man cautionary tale about rage, ego, and wasted potential. Samir Nasri and Adrian Mutu, doping and substance bans. Football's fight against doping isn't about steroids and muscle. It's about the temptation to cheat time itself. In 2018, Samir Nasri, once a dazzling French midfielder, was banned for 18 months after receiving an illegal IV treatment in Los Angeles. The infusion wasn't performance-enhancing. It was simply too much, exceeding the legal limit. But in the eyes of UEFA, rules are rules. It marked the quiet end of his career in Europe. Years earlier, in 2004, Romanian striker Adrian Mutu faced a harsher fate. A positive cocaine test while at Chelsea led to his immediate dismissal, a 7-month ban, and a massive legal war with the club. In the end, Mutu was ordered to pay £17 million in damages, one of the largest player fines in football history. 2 different stories, same moral. In the race to stay on top, one wrong drip, one wrong line can end everything. Different crimes, same consequences. The fall is always faster than the rise. But football never forgets. The headlines fade, the noise dies, yet the stories remain, waiting to be retold, reimagined, turned into cinema. And this was only part 1. Next, blackmail, betting, and betrayal, the scandals that defined a generation.